Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the May 13th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Shout out to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. Props to the people who are watching on YouTube Live. Make sure you subscribe. I feel like a rapper right now. I done rhymed like four words together. But make sure you subscribe at Quadify LLC on YouTube. I don't got to give you the spiel. You understand why a brother got to pay tuition up until like 2027. They just sent my daughter this thing. It's a class of 2027, and so all I heard was cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Right. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Props to the people who are watching on IG Live. I know y'all the kids in class that never listened, so that's why I had to instruct y'all to come on over to Facebook and to YouTube. Listen, man, we got a dope show for you tonight. No guest tonight. You just get to hear me rant. It's been some topics that I've wanted to discuss all week, and I haven't had the opportunity because I had some dope people on. I had the brothers from #You Good Man discussing The Last Dance in Jordan. On Tuesday, I had PA State Representative Joanna McClinton on, and we were just discussing all things politics, which I know shocked some of y'all. And last but not least, yesterday we had former pro basketball player and mental health advocate, Mr. Nafis Ricks on, and just dropping gems, man, dropping gems. If I had an assistant, I could have made sure that I have some clips for y'all so y'all could listen, but soon come. You know what I'm saying? So props to y'all. What's up, Trace, man? So yeah, we're going to get right into it, man. I know you see what the title is, Boosie Promotes Child Sexual Abuse. I'm going to get into that. But first, I want to have a conversation because I feel like we family, right? I feel like we family, and I just want to vent a little bit. I have the trashiest neighbors in the history of neighbors. Now, the reason why I bought this house in Northeast Philly was partly because of self-hatred. You might be thinking partly because of self-hatred. Yeah. It was like, yo, if I live around white people, I know it's going to be quieter. I know it's going to be safer. And all of the above. Again, these are the things that we are brainwashed with as we're growing up, right? Especially as we get older, you know, we start to recognize that, yeah, this isn't really it. And let me know how this sounds, man. I see the little red line on my decibel joint, so let me know how I'm coming across. But my neighbors are the trashiest. They're the trashiest. They just moved in. It's like a woman, her boyfriend, and about 4 kids. And lo and behold, they are of the Caucasian persuasion. And so here we have it, 10, 11 years. Now, I live on a block with, you know, a bunch of different ethnicities, people with differing religious beliefs. And so, but it's always been quiet. It has always been quiet. But here they are. And you know when your neighbors are loud because they leave the screen door open. And when I say they leave the screen door open, they like open it and leave it open and just scream back and forth to one another. She curses her kids out. She be cursing at the neighbors' kids who just be playing at their crib. And it's just like, bro, I tried to sit on the steps earlier and just vibe out to some jazz as I finished reading this book. And they wasn't having it. You know, I feel like when in Baby Boy, what they said to Jody when they tried to steal his bike, and they got it, he's like, you know, fuck your bike. Oh no, it was Snoop. It was Snoop Dogg, right? He was like, fuck your fork, cuz, when he said it to Yvette, little boy, Jody's son, and that's how I felt they were. How they were talking to me being out there and they screaming. I couldn't read. I couldn't chill and just relax. On God, I want to call the cops, right? I want to call the cops. I've thought about it several times. But the thing is, they live next door to a cop. And so if she can't do nothing with them, if she can't threaten them, what I'm going to do? And then we living in this quarantine period. Because again, those who know me know I love my silence. Like, I need peace and quiet. I need everything to be off, the lights. I need the television to be off if I'm a rest. And so when I want to chill, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to chill. But they not letting me be great at all. And so, again, I think the irony is the fact that they are a white family. And I try to show grace because I recognize that, you know, people don't grow up with the same belief systems when it comes to quietness that I do. but they trashy AF. You know what I'm saying? Yo, what's up, brother? How you feeling? Yo, Zeke, what's up, man? So yeah, if anybody wants to have these neighbors come live at your crib, let me know. And because I thought about getting them evicted, I thought about contacting the Asian owners, but I was like, yo, I don't want to be that person because you never want to be that neighbor, right? You never want to be that neighbor, but slowly we become the one thing that we don't want to be. Like I stood outside the other day, they was playing football in the street, and I sat and watched. Because I wanted one of them to hit my car. I wanted them to hit my car with that football. I would have ran over there so fast and gripped one of them young boys up. Like, yo. What, you want to pay for my window? Your parent gonna pay for my window? And I had to stop myself. I was like, yo, they kids. They kids, Phil. You was a kid once. And then I was like, damn, I was a reckless kid. And I was a big body kid. I had the big body Benz body. And so you catch a football, boom, boom, right at somebody will, like, with no regard. Because people don't think about it, man. I just got my pandemic unemployment money. It ain't ish. Trust me, so you don't gotta rob me. It ain't ish. But I'm like, I can't spend that on trying to fix a dent that one of these little kids done put into my car. So yeah, but that's just me, right? That's just me. Y'all don't gotta be honest, cause y'all be too cool for school out in these streets, man. Too cool for school, but it's real. So we're gonna get right into the topic at hand. This first topic, right? And this first topic is pretty serious. Now, because I've had guests on the last few days, I was unable to comment on this whole Lil Boosie situation. If you've been under a rock, I'm going to play you this clip.
I'm gonna get my son no motherfucking shit out here. I'm training them boys right. Ask in there my nephew. Ask in them. Ask my son. Yeah. They 12, 13. They got it. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. Hell yeah, I got my son. He's right.
So, shout out to those who said I got the wrong date in my live video. I appreciate y'all. Listen, when in these Corona streets, man, in these Corona times, I have no idea what today's date is. I don't. Right? It's May 14th, apparently. I ran out of depression and anxiety medicine. So I know my insurance kicked in on the 15th. So yeah, I should have known better, but I appreciate y'all for catching that. So I will be changing that at some point. You ain't gotta be top flight, Craig. You ain't gotta be top flight. But back to this Boosie conversation, right? That was disgusting. That was disgusting on so many levels. Like, he's talking about facilitating child sexual abuse with his sons and with his nephews. Talking about, yeah, I got my son sucked. There's so many curses in here. By a super grown woman. And you sit and listen to it, and you're like, yo, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm older. Maybe it's because I have this level of awareness that clearly Boosie doesn't have. But I'm just sitting here like, yo, you allowed somebody and authorized somebody to rape your child. And there's a distinction between child and adolescent, if you weren't aware. Adolescent typically starts around the age of 14 when we get out here, because why? At the age of 14, you can sign consent for different things. Right? Still makes it child sexual abuse, child sexual assault, whatever name you want to put to it. But even if I wanted to understand that, all right, it was an adolescent if he was 17, if he was 16, just maybe. No, I can't even show him that grace. I don't get it. I don't understand it. We live in a culture, we live in a time where we continue to promote the assaults of black boys who turn into be black men. And statistics show that when you're sexually assaulted as a child, especially as a male, there's a high likelihood that you may become a sex offender when you're older. But I guess it was cool because it was an older woman and a younger man. My thoughts when I was hearing this was like, yo, they gotta take Boosie children away. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. His children needs to be taken away from him ASAP. And an investigation by Child Protective Services needs to happen forthwith. That's a legal term for immediately. And you might be saying why, right? So for those of you who don't know, I was a child protective service worker for my first 5 years. Once I graduated from school with a degree in social work, I worked for the Department of Human Services here in Philadelphia. And so there were certain procedures, there are certain rules that exist on the books where you got to take the kid no matter what. Now, trust me, I'm fully aware of the statistics when it comes to black and brown kids going into foster care. Hence, one of the reasons why I quit after 5 years. I couldn't reconcile going into black and brown neighborhoods, assessing a lot of neglect issues, which is a result of racism, which is a result of poverty, which is a result of systemic issues that exist. But I wasn't going to Chestnut Hill, which for those who live in Philadelphia know that's where a more affluent population lives. And they're mostly white. It's a nice little area, right? Got little bricks on the, for the ground, little trolley, nice little quaint stores where, the thrift store that stuff costs like $110. But I was never getting calls there. I was getting calls in West Philly, South Philly, Kensington, going into environments and saying, yeah, something's going to have to give. Trying to give people a couple dollars out of my own pocket so they can have food because the report said they didn't have food in the fridge. Or giving my big bubble coat, my Woolrich, giving it to a client. Why? Because they said they didn't have heat in the crib. And so when we talk about neglect issues, yeah, taking kids out the home, I'm not a big fan of that. There's remedies and measures that we can put in place in order to assist them. Even with physical abuse, I've assessed cases where, yeah, you know what? The kid, he got hit with a belt. Now, listen, I'm not one to tell you, what to do when it comes to physically discipline your child. But what I will say is that when you use instruments such as belts, such as shoes, such as extension cords, such as pans, that increases the likelihood that an unintentional accident happens. So you might be aiming for the butt and you hit them across the neck. Yeah. That can be considered child abuse. But even still, that's not necessarily grounds to take a child out of a home. But you know what is? I'm going to let you know what is. I'm going to replay the video for you if you just now tuning in.
When they get my son no motherfucking out here, I'm training them boys.
This is
right.
child abuse.
I'm training them boys right. Ask in there my nephew. Ask in them. Ask my son. Yeah. They were 12, 13. They got it.
This is rape.
Yeah.
This is facilitated rape by a father.
Yeah. Hell yeah, I got my son shut. He's right.
And so, yes, those children need to be taken out of the home immediately. What also needs to happen is that Boosie should be arrested and charged, at minimum, endangering the welfare of a child. Multiple children. Again, with these issues, it's black or white. And you know that I'm one who always try to see the gray. But it's black and white. Now, surprisingly, I've seen people speaking out about this. And they've gotten the conversation half right. They're castigating Boosie for these comments, and not only for the comments, but for the actions. We live in a society where all child sexual assaults aren't equal. Why? Due to ideas like masculinity, right? Which stems from patriarchy. I got to throw those social justice words out there. And so when we look at it as a rites of passage for young boys who mess with older women. Conversely, if it was a young girl and an older man, he's looked at as a predator. This is woven into the fabric of society. Think about it. How many people know the name Larry Nassar? The predatorial doctor who assaulted hundreds of athletes at Michigan State. Hundreds of Olympic athletes. But how many know about the doctor at Ohio State who was sexually assaulting men during the early 90s? And we're starting to see doctors at other universities who sexually assaulted dozens and dozens of men. Won't hear about those, do we? Why? Because we understand that it's a double standard that exists. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that girls and women are more likely to be survivors. I don't like using the term victim. Survivors of sexual abuse, right? But that doesn't negate the boys who experience it as well. And so we need, if we're going to progress in this society, we have to shift that idea. This isn't a all lives matter type of conversation. And if it is, I don't really give a damn. Because we understand what comes from this. Again, we could look at R. Kelly. Yeah, y'all don't want to hear R. Kelly, do y'all? Y'all don't want to hear that name brought up. Because you only want to look at him as being a predator. But you don't want to look at him as potentially being a survivor that influenced how he's showing up in his adult life. We're not ready for that conversation. But we're going to have to be. Or we're going to continue to produce more R. Kellys. How do we know these 12 and 13-year-old boys enjoyed it? How do we know that they even wanted that to happen? Why should they be mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually compromised to have to make these decisions at such a young age? Why is this being forced upon them by their father, no less? Now, I'm going to shoot Boosie some bail. I know I said I wasn't earlier, but I'm going to shoot him a little bit. This is learned behavior. Things like this are learned behavior. Now, I'm not saying somebody got him fellatio when he was a child. But I know I've worked with a lot of boys who were sexually preoccupied at a young age. Some of them were molested, like Boosie's children are. And some of them weren't. They just listen to rap songs. They just watch provocative movies. They're taking in all this information from society. And so, no, I'm the man because I got fellatio from a 30-year-old woman. And I'm only 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Hell, 18. Even though you're technically an adult. But that should bring up red flags, right? If you're 18 and a 30-year-old wants to mess with you, it's not just that you got game. Because trust me, when you're 18, your game is ass. Or maybe that's just me. In society, we equate sex to manhood. And this isn't just in the heterosexual culture. In gay culture as well. Why? Because it's this idea of, and think about it, someone who's quote unquote, I'm not going to even say closeted, but they haven't allowed anyone in yet. Because we know that's what's taking place. They haven't allowed anyone in yet. And so how are they going to allow their peers in to try and explore their sexuality? No, they're going to go to an individual who's older, who has more quote unquote wisdom, who has more insight into their own sexuality. And so again, it becomes that badge of honor. But in reality, again, it's child molestation, child sexual abuse. It's rape. Whether you want to call it that or not. But there's also another part of this conversation that I haven't seen addressed. And that's with the woman who participated in this, the perpetrator. Now, don't get me wrong, there are two perpetrators here. Boosie is clearly one. Boosie is clearly one. And when I say that he needs to have his kids taken away, I'm not saying for forever. But clearly he needs to go to therapy. He needs to go to parenting classes. And he needs to see that there are consequences for behaviors such as these. Point blank. And the same thing goes with the woman. She made a beyond piss poor decision. I have no idea who she is. Some people say she's a sex worker and she was paid for it. He might have said that. But what does that mean? Listen, I'm empathetic to the plight of the sex worker. I recognize all the barriers and all the stigma attached. Because you're just trying to survive. But does that make it any better? No, I don't think you should be going to jail because you decide to engage in consensual sexual acts with another adult. No, that's BS. That's nonsense. You shouldn't go to jail, or you shouldn't be given a citation because somebody pays you for sex. Let the old heads tell it. Listen, man. Take them to a movie, you take them to dinner, and you might have paid for it. But that's a conversation for another day. But there needs to be consequences for this woman. Whatever charges Boosie is brought up on, she should as well. Now, granted, no, we don't know her identity. But we can give the idea of Jane Doe that same energy. Because she probably on social media. She probably checking the shade room. And Boss Up and all these other gossipy sites. She should be getting a business. No, she shouldn't be shamed for being a sex worker. But for this very real crime that she committed and that she engaged in. Again, we have to hold people accountable. Unfortunately, no. In everything, we cannot take into account your prior mental health. the prior abuse you might have experienced that had you to become a sex worker, or that had you to become a proud father, getting your child fellatio at the age of 12 and 13. Because if that's the case, R would be free, and a lot of other people would be free. If we're taking that into account, we can't. Because the one thing that I learned from being in this social work profession and being in child welfare in particular, everything is about the best interest of the child. And so although Boosie might have believed somewhere inside, because I truly believe, thinks that he believes that he's acting in the best interest of the teenage boys that he come around and that he engaged with. But that ain't it. That ain't it. And so just like that, we on to the next topic, man. We on to the next topic. I hope Boosie gets the help that he so desperately needs, and I pray that the children get the help that they so desperately need as well. Listen, it's a super slow news week. Super slow. Nothing really popping off. I know I don't want to talk about the young lady in Kentucky. I don't. Leslie Young asks, well, before we get there, Leslie Young asks, where's the boy's mom? I have no idea. And so, yeah. But with it being a slow news week, we get to talk about my favorite show, Insecure, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. For those who participated, for those who watched, who stayed up late. I think I watched mine the next morning because I had to watch The Last Dance. But Insecure, what team y'all on? Molly or Issa? And so I'm going to give y'all some background. Right, I'm going to give y'all some background. Insecure, if you're not aware, is a show it's a dope show that comes on HBO every Sunday. Right, it's like the 4th season, I believe. Give you a little background, and I'm not calling spoiler alert. And so Isaiah says Team Issa. I was Team Issa too, till I sat and reflected. So just to let you know. So Issa and Molly, 2 black women, they've been best friends for years. Again, they have the ups and downs in any friendship, any relationship. And so Issa, she's putting together this block party, and her opening act, her headliner backs out, and so now she needs a headliner. Molly is dating this Asian man, and I had to say Asian man because he's an Asian man. He's a good actor too. But dating this Asian man, and he works for Live Nation, and so she's like, "Yo, can you talk to him and see if he can help out and potentially get me a headliner?" And Molly was like, listen, because Molly's had difficulties sustaining relationships in her life. She's a self-sabotager, point blank. And even though she's tried to self-sabotage this relationship, she's actually doing a pretty good job of maintaining it and being vulnerable, because that's one of her biggest issues as well. And so Molly was like, nah, right? I can't do that, right? I can't do that. And Issa not understanding, and she's like, listen, you know what I mean? Just bringing all that into one. If wanted to be any conflicts, any issues, if something arises, like I'm in the middle of it. And so what Issa do? Issa was messing around with the guy's friend at one point. And they were talking, and he mentioned it. She mentioned it to him to ask the guy. Going around Molly's back. And so this all comes out at the block party. And so what Molly do? Molly stepped to Issa because they was having some real friction. And they dropped some names. They was about to knuckle. Got separated, and then it went off. And so the question has been, whose team are you on? Issa or Molly? And initially I was like, I'm Team Issa. Because here she has this event, right? Her headliner backs out on her. Her friend has a potential end to help her out, even though they're not on the best of terms, which shouldn't be minimized in this situation either. And she says no. So she went around her friend's back and did it anyway. It's grimy. It's grimy. At one point I was like, yo, listen, this is my show. This is my opportunity. I don't want it to fail. But nah, it's grimy. It's grimy. Isaiah says it was a time and place. Molly was. It definitely was a time and place. She shouldn't have confronted her. In a perfect world, she shouldn't have confronted her at the block party like she did. But if she just finding out this information at the block party, listen, it's not no let's wait till the next day or a day after that. No, you've been smiling in my face. We just got finished doing the wobble together, and we started to connect just a little bit. Nah, that's shady. Because look at it from Molly's perspective. What if the event is horrible, is awful? Molly gonna be looked at like she crazy. It could potentially cause friction between Molly and the guy she's pursuing. She's trying to put all her energy into this relationship. Leslie says Molly felt disrespected, so all gloves are all facts. And so with that, it's just like, yeah, because we don't know what could have transpired. Yes, everything turned out well, but I gave you a hard no. And you didn't respect me enough to respect my decision. And so you chose to go around my back. Like, that's grimy. That's grimy. And so I initially tried to shoot Issa some bail. Because I was like, all right, what if she was just pillow talking with the boy? Like, yo, this happened. And he reached out on his own and said, yo, Issa, right? This happened. She might need some assistance. But no, Issa asked. And that's what makes it most egregious, that she asked the guy to ask her, even though her best friend told her no. And so, yeah, I'm Team Molly with it. Because, again, if you can't respect the boundaries, because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about boundaries. Like, you're injecting yourself into my relationship. Right? Like, we can't forget that. I'm trying to think of a situation like that. I don't got no situation like that. I'm not the connect in situations. But I can only imagine if I was, and you got somebody coming around. You got to ask somebody. Nah. And they already said, no, nah. You're doing too much. Now, again, when we talk about timing, we talk about it being a time and place. Yeah, again, Molly could have waited. But they should have been had conversations so it didn't get to this boiling point. And that's when we talk about just having that ability to communicate. And that's what I think is so dope about the series. Outside of the fact that it's beautifully shot. Like, and I'm not really the cinematic guy. But I think like shows like that, the movie Moonlight, just beautifully shot films. And the soundtrack is all that. But I think it shows the complexities of various relationships, various friendships. It shows the complexities of dating. Especially as a black millennial. Like, it's hard out in them streets. Because you gotta sift through the nonsense. You gotta sift through the BS. And so, yeah, I empathize with her. You know what I mean? And again, I'm Team Molly. And so I gotta make my post that. But outside of that, man, I'll give a few minutes. What y'all talking about? What y'all got going in these streets? I told you, it's one of them slow weeks. I saw the white lady tripping at what was that, Red Lobster here in Pennsylvania. Like, I wish I had that video. her trying to fight her way into the Red Lobster. Listen, I love me some Cheddar Bay biscuits too. But it's, again, with these, and everybody just want to be out in the Rona streets, just trying to thinking life is the same. Like, life ain't the same, man. Like, going to Red Lobster and being mad because it's a wait. It's already a wait at Red Lobster. And that's what's crazy about that. The more I think about it, like, Red Lobster is always a 50-minute to an hour wait, especially if you go on a weekend. And so now we in quarantine time. And that begs the question, are they social distancing up in the kitchen? Are people wearing masks? Like what's happening? Are they being tested at Red Lobster, like on a daily basis? The people that's making your food, or if you eat out? And I just had Chinese food out yesterday, man. Now I'm starting to think, and that place was closed that I eat Chinese food from for like 2 months. And I'm not going to say I was having a racist moment, but I started to think. Because, again, we're so influenced by society. And so, yeah. All right, y'all ain't got no questions. Y'all ain't got no topics. I'm about to call it a night, man. Y'all be safe in these streets. Oh, and don't forget, right? Don't forget to follow me on YouTube, Quantify LLC. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Phil_Roundtree. And make sure you're showing love to the brother.
Let me see if y'all gave me any donations. Let me see. I'm giving y'all all my wisdom, but where the donations at? Last donation to the school was Richard Harris. Somebody better get on their Cash App.
Cash App.
Somebody better get on their Cash App.
Quantify LLC.
Cash.me/$FDMG school. I better get some donations. I'm about to hang up.
Peace. See y'all on Monday.